Here we are again at the start of another chapter. This is Chapter 5, Lesson 1, Day 2, the homework for January 4th. So this is working with rates and unit rates. So extra practice can be found on textbook page 245, numbers 5 and 6. So when you're working with rates and unit rates, it really is, and I know I say it all the time, be sure to think about what would be reasonable. Because some of these questions, if you just stop at the end and think, like, does this answer actually make sense? That can help you avoid a lot of easily, caught mistakes. So in question number 1, it took Miss Hill 6 hours to paint a wall surface with an area of 282 square feet. How many square feet did Miss Hill paint in 1 hour? So we know our answer will have to be in a sentence. So Miss Hill painted blank square feet in 1 hour. So I am going to be using one of our rate lines, because I do think it is a nice way to make sure that we keep things organized and I make sure that the correct unit is applied to the correct number. So we are doing square feet and hours, and the information that we've been given is that it takes 6 hours to do 282 square feet. And we want to know about 1 hour. And so just point of clarification here, I put the 6 on the right because if this were a number line, as we go to the right, the numbers increase. And so I did a little bit of thinking there that if I'm trying to figure out how long for 1 hour here, that I would want to put that on the left side. So we know that 6 over to 1, we would need to divide by 6. And so to figure out how many square feet are painted in 1 hour, we would have to divide that by 6. So I'm going to use, why not, let's do some long division. 282 divided by 6. So again, we are solving 282 divided by 6. And I know 6 goes into 2, 0 times. 6 goes into 28, 4 times, and that is 24. Subtract. And I need those ones now. So 6 goes into 42 7 times. So she could do 47 square feet in 1 hour. And I guess if I wanted to look at this with a bar model, if that's kind of what you like, we know in 6 hours, which would look like this. Here's 6 hours. She could do 282 square feet. And if we were to look for 1 hour, we would want to know that amount there, which is the same amount as one of those. So that definitely confirms 282 divided by 6. I'm not sure if you could hear that, but Wrigley just click-clacked up here with his little nails. So he came in to say hello and shake a little bit. So back to question number 1, 47 square feet in 1 hour. And that does seem reasonable. If this was 300 square feet divided by 6, then our answer would be about 50. So we know that we are in about the right ballpark. Question number 2. A wheel makes 35 revolutions per minute. Ooh, those are RPMs. You may have heard that before. How many minutes does the wheel take to make 315 revolutions? So again, let's get our sentence. It takes blank minutes. And I'm going to use our ratio line. And so these are revolutions per minute. And we know that in 1 minute there are 35 revolutions. And we are curious, what about 315 revolutions and blank minutes? So we need to figure out how many times does 35 go into 315 so that we know what to multiply this by. And so we can figure out that using division. So 315 divided by 35. Now I'm going to use a little bit of reasoning here to solve this one because I just think this one seems like it could be pretty close to easy. So if I think of this division like it's multiplication, I know that 35 times 10, so that would be 10 minutes, would get 350 revolutions. But that's more than what we need. And so I'm noticing a little bit of a relationship between these two numbers, where if I do with a pen instead of a highlighter. If I do 350 minus 35, I get 315. So that means if we go for one less minute, we would end up with 315 revolutions per minute. So 35 times 9 is going to equal 315. So over here we know that the revolutions are 9 times as great, so that would mean we would need 9 times as many minutes. So it takes 9 minutes to turn that many revolutions. Great. All right, question number three. Miss Walker earns $12.50 for working, $12.50 per hour working at a bookstore. Fill in the table. So in the number of hours, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we know that each hour her unit rate is $12.50. So in 2 hours, that is going to double, and that would be $25. And if I were to double that 2 hours to 4 hours, it would double that 25 to 50. So I could fill that in right there. So if I know, I have a couple routes here to figure out the number, how many for 3 hours. I could go back to my unit rate, if I use my picture here, 1 hour, $12.50. If we want to find 3 hours, we would need to multiply by 3. So I could do multiply by 3 as well to get that. Or I could say, well, 1 hour plus 2 hours would get me 3 hours. So if I add these two amounts here, it will get me my answer of $37.50 for 3 hours. So now when we get to 5 hours, 1 hour, $12.50. If we want 5, we would need to multiply this by 5, or we could do our 4-hour amount and add 1 more hour of pay. So I think I'm going to do that because it's relatively easy. I mean, 50 plus 12.50 is 62.50. So that is how much she would earn for each of these hours. So awesome job, Miss Walker. Way to work at that bookstore. And if I wanted to, I could always go back and check. Oh my gosh, the dog is flopping on that ground. I could go back and check and see if I did 12.50. I'd get rid of that 0 in the hundreds place. Times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 2 is 12. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 1 is 6. And we would need to move that 1 decimal point, 62.50. That seems like I almost made a lot of mistakes there, but I did get the right answer. So, good job, Miss Walker. Good job, Mr. Pasca. Question number 4. I don't know if you saw it on the Google Classroom. This is missing a piece of information, so we can't figure out wild rice, but we could figure out polished compared to brown. And we need to figure out what the type of rice that costs the most per pound. So, here we have 2 pieces of information. And in class, when we solved a problem like this, you could use the unit rate to figure out what if you had purchased 1 pound, 1 pound for each of those, or we did the least common multiple. So that was if we figured out where if we bought the same amount of each of these, how much would that cost? And then we could compare, because that would tell us pretty quickly which one was cheaper. So if we're going to do the unit rate, I'll solve it both ways. I know to calculate the unit rate for polished, I'm going to have to do the amount paid, 20.60, divided by 10. So that means everything is going to move over 1 place. So it's dollars per pound or pounds per dollar? Dollars per pound. Yeah, let's do that. So that would give us $2.06 per pound of polished. And then brown, we would need to do 9.60 divided by 3. Well, this one seemed a little bit tricky at first, but now that I look at it, I know 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 6/10 divided by 3 is 2/10. So the brown will cost $3.20 per pound. That means that brown is the most expensive, but decimal division and I sometimes don't get along, so I am going to double check with my least common multiple. And so for this, that's where we set up our unit, our rate line rather. And so this is for polished, this is for brown, and we know that 10 pounds of polished is $20.60. 3 pounds of brown is $9.60. So I need to find a number here for both of these that would work out where I could buy multiple pounds or multiple piles of polished rice and end there, and then also buy multiple quantities of brown and get that same weight of rice. So I know if I multiply 10 times 3, I get 30, and so I could use that as my least common multiple here. So that means if I buy 30 pounds of brown rice, I need to do 99.6 times 10, and that means it would cost $96 to get those 30 pounds of brown rice. For least common multiple of the polished rice, I would need to multiply that by 3 times 3, so 2060 times 3. In my head, I'm thinking 20 times 3 is 60. 60 cents times 3, or like 6 tenths, is going to be 18 tenths, or 1.8. So when we add those up, we would get $61.80. So it would only cost $61.80 to buy the polished rice. So if we're looking at this here, this clearly shows that brown rice is more expensive, and the fact that it would cost $96 to buy 30 pounds compared to $61. So here we definitely see that brown is the most expensive. Now just a quick note on this answer key, this is wrong, so you can tell that that should not have been there. Boop, boop. And we didn't even have this. So brown costs the most.